job seekers, career changers, students, professionals wondering what's the right career, what's the next move if you want to pivot. This is the episode for you.
This week on the Shameless Podcast.
A lot of people are actually quite concerned in terms of the unpredictability they're seeing in their specific careers.
And one of the things that you see is mass layoffs, mass hirings, different sectors that this is happening in. And is it a myth or is it true? AI is about to take my job.
It depends on your job. If you look at the World Economic Forum's future report for 2025, you will see that some industries and some jobs are significantly and negatively impacted by the introduction of AI and automation. There is no role, and I mean no role in the organization that does not use some form of AI in its day-to-day job. So I basically have a name for the AI I use, like she is a person, right?
What's her name? Right,
if
cool.
I tell people the name of my AI when I'm talking about her in the streets, y'all gonna know I'm talking about my AI and not an actual person. But when it comes to future-proofing your career, like something you can do today right now, you want to look at learning AI, data, and digital skills. Like when COVID hit, people you never thought of as critical skills were now critical skills.
Fundamental to the economy. Yeah. And I think that is the way that you need to sort of look at the job market, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not about what you're seeing now. It's about what is potentially going to be in high demand. Don't be shy or afraid to talk about where you're trying to be. A lot of the time I find that people go into a room and then they're pretty shy about, I want to be here. I want to do this, or this is what is in the pipeline. Closed mouths don't get fed. So if you don't talk about it, then nobody gonna know about it, and therefore nobody can help you. Sometimes we are afraid to do something. You fear shame. I don't want shame. We're trying to break that burden by sharing stories of courage, resilience, and we want to be able to celebrate your story.
Shameless.
Welcome to everybody. My name is Dzikamai, Gangaidzo, and I'm the host of the Shameless Podcast, where we look to have bold, unfiltered conversations. And today, we have none other than, please take it away.
Hi, my name is Nono Bokete, and I am the Chief Ambassador at Transformation Leader and the CEO of Data Sentinels. Thank you for having me.
Like and subscribe. I thought that's like a typical thing. No?
I thought that you said
You're
I shouldn't be
switching it out.
talking all the time, no?
No. As in, like, I like the fact that you keep us on our toes. You don't know whether it's an upsell or cross-sell or no-sell or when it's coming. So I've got to say, but
I will give you guys a session around digital marketing for sure, because it's not a joke.
Okay, so now you've got our attention. What is the topic for today?
So we're going to be talking a little bit about the job market. A lot of our people in the community of Transformation Leader are actually quite concerned in terms of the unpredictability they're seeing in their specific careers. And the goal is hopefully we'll be able to give some insight that they can leverage. And of course, if you are not part of our community, please go to www.t4leader.com and sign up there.
Oh, did you see that through ball? It's just like, here you go, no. It's your chance. And you know what I actually think is quite interesting and why I think this matters is that I think it is the job market in any way, shape or form is very unpredictable. And what we're seeing is the slight shift in traditional ways that sort of the world is working and job markets are working. And so with that shift, people feel very like they're not safe. Mm-hmm. And some industries are booming, but some are slowly dying away. And that then becomes the question here. And then I've got a maybe a challenge. You talked about a course that you have, right?
Yes. Where is this going?
No, I said like, because is it, when you were building it, were you looking to sort of future-proof people's careers? Like, what's the thinking and ethos around the curriculum and that course in particular? Because I think what we're talking about here is how do people get ready in this moving space?
Yeah, so basically, Transformation Leader focuses on digital leadership. The fact of the matter is, if you are not engaging in some sort of technology in some capacity, you are probably behind the globe, right? And in that regard, you are future proofed. And things like this, we also have conversations on Shameless, like here, and we have webinars, we have events, and our events are free, are mostly free. We also have some free webinars every month on a Thursday, where we have the Transformation Leader ambassadors, are not me, but are way cooler and way more advanced in their basically industries, they experience. And the goal is for us to actually provide some insight to the community to basically help them future-proof themselves in conjunction with the courses that we provide. Specifically, I think what might help, and I'll talk about a little bit later on, is, our digital transformation and data course, because we're seeing a lot of trends in the markets about these skills
Hold
being
up.
in demand.
So you can't now start giving us snippets of like what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to ask you, who are the people this episode are most likely to resonate? Who do you think, if you had to put a finger on it? And are there similarities between those people and the people who would probably sign up to do one of your courses? And it's not that I'm punting them. I'm just asking so
You're
that I
punting it
know.
really hard. It's really like a hard sell today.
It's a
Yes.
hard sell.
I'm thanking you. I'm thanking you. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. So I think ideal candidates for this episode are job seekers, career changers, students, professionals wondering what's the right career? What's the next move if you want to pivot? This is the episode for you.
And the title of this episode is WTF is actually happening in the job market today. And, one of the things that you see is mass layoffs, mass hirings, different sectors that this is happening in. Is it a myth or is it true? AI is about to take my job. If I blink too much, if I blink too long, the job gone, AI is doing it. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I do see that globally, we have seen, at least in the States, a lot of mass hiring and mass layoffs. You see Boeing, I think they laid off 400 people in the NASA segment. Meta is doing stuff like that. Even the government, with Trump's introduction to the efficient department that's headed
Doge.
But in the African context, I think that it's quite specific to industry, to country, what's happening in the economy. You can't really have a blanket statement. You kind of need to be quite specific, because you'll find, for example, in Zambia, maybe there's a big demand of skills for mining. Whereas if you go to the next country over, they're laying off because the diamond market is shrinking and they can't basically afford that. So I think that you have to look at it from country to country basis. When it comes to AI and automation, is it going to take your job? It depends on your job. So I'm someone who will not go to you and say, oh, AI is not going to replace your job. It depends. If you look at the World Economic Forum's future report for 2025, you will see that some industries and some jobs are significantly and negatively impacted by the introduction of AI and automation. And that's why I think this conversation is extremely important, because you need to recognize whether you're in a job that doesn't necessarily have the runway for, 15 years, so that you can start pivoting or upskilling in a way that's going to help.
And then, so have you had any experience implementing AI and how that complements an individual? What are your thoughts in particular? Because I think a lot of the time it's either binary, right? But what is the space that might be in between? And what does that look like?
Okay. So technology is here to help humanity. And if you don't have a human-centric view on technology and a human-centric viewpoint in terms of implementing technology in an organization, in your workspace, in your own life, you are putting yourself at risk. And why I say that is because some organizations want to basically cut costs. So they will ask someone like us, the data sentinels, I would like to automate, the paper processing, maybe payroll completely so that I don't have to have a payroll accountant anymore or a department of payroll accountants. And you can do that. And that has happened. Okay. But then there's some roles that have a little bit more human nuance that are then where you'd augment your AI or technology partner. In our organization specifically, there is no role, and I mean no role in the organization that does not use some form of AI in its day-to-day job. And the way that I basically have a name for the AI I use, like she is a person, right?
What's her name?
What
Let
I
me
will
know
not
when
even
you see the person in the
tell
face, right?
people
All right,
if
cool.
I
All right,
tell
cool.
people the name of my AI when I'm talking about her in the streets, y'all gonna know I'm talking about my AI and not an actual person. But I
Yeah.
really the reason I do that is because it's like trying to remember that this is someone that you can collaborate with. And when I say someone, a technology that you can collaborate with, that you can engage with, that can actually help you do things a lot faster. And for someone like me who has like 1,000 things going and has my brain's like going at 100 miles an hour, it's great to actually just go, wait, let me brainstorm this with this AI and I don't have to bother anybody, which is like
Yeah.
insane. And I've heard people even use AI like for relationship advice. What
I don't
crazy
know.
things have
I don't know much
you
about that.
heard? I've heard. I literally
As in,
have
like, I
heard.
don't know much about doing that, but I'm not surprised.
What gift should I get, my dad for Father's Day?
And you
We're no
know,
longer going there. We're going to, natural language.
and I think so. Sometimes I struggle with writing letters, and especially formal type. And so it'd be like I write it in my voice because that's how I end up writing, and then I just go plug, and then it comes out like so professional. And then I go, okay, let's adjust this, and this so that it just seems a little bit more me than him. And so I think that augmentation piece really is amazing. But are you doing this in the office or from a remote location? Because we talk a lot about that. Who's winning? And what does it mean for people, whether you're working remotely or in the office? The battle of the titans.
So what you'll see is that there is a rise like globally for contract work, gig work. And I don't know if you've heard the term fractional like CEO or fractional
Yeah.
CMO, whatever.
Or
And
fractional
basically,
CTO.
exactly. And basically what that is
What's
you're
it for?
able to engage with someone who has that you wouldn't necessarily be able to afford on a full-time basis, but you're able to afford them fractionally. So you're seeing that there's a big rise in that. And because of that, you then also see a larger rise in remote work and remote work offerings. Living on LinkedIn, you'll see that it's remote, hybrid, and now you're seeing less and less of, come to office, even though there is a push for people to come to the office. I think that, again, it depends on your industry and what you're doing. There's some roles where it doesn't actually make sense. You will not be effective in your role if you're in your house. You need to be on site engaging with people, construction. I don't know if you can do construction remotely.
No,
Manufacturing, you
not a good
probably
idea.
kind of need to maybe walk the floor, But then,
It's so cool in that some roles I've seen people within an African space and they're working for America within America. I mean, there was a lady out of Nigeria, a company out of Zambia, Botswana, South Africa. You see a lot of people who've got a good set of skills, who've got a good understanding, and the demand existing somewhere else. That just opens up the network and the industries altogether. But you have to be ready, right? You can't just go and say, yeah, I'm going to try remote work, but you don't have necessarily the skills. You're not at that level. And I find that really, really interesting. So if I was to then ask you talked about a World Economic Forum report for 2025.
yes.
So
So
what are the
every
hot
year,
industries? What are the hot industries? I want to know right now what are the hot industries so that I can pivot properly. Am I learning how to like engineer, prompt engineer? Am I learning how to do like cyber cloud things? Like, do I need to learn a new language? Like English is no longer applicable. Like crypto. I mean,
No, if
because
there
I've got a
is
lot of things.
a thing on there on languages, but that's probably a good addition. Like, what languages are increasing, what languages are decreasing. But the World Economic Forum does a future work report. I've only started using this like maybe about 4-5 years ago is when I was introduced to this simply because I actually wanted to understand if I am future proofing myself. And thank goodness I picked the right degree. Let's put it that way. But let me just pull this up and I'm going to give you the top fastest growing jobs. Big data specialist.
Okay. All right. All right. Look at me now.
Fintech engineers, AI and machine learning specialists, software and application developers, security management specialist, data warehousing specialist, automation and electric vehicle specialist, UI and UX designers. And this one I thought was quite interesting. Light truck or delivery service drivers. If you want the full list, you can go onto the link below. We will click in where that report is so you can look at it. But I'm looking at light truck and delivery service drivers. And I think that the increase of us, working at home, more remote businesses, there's a more demand on like supply chain, right? And getting goods where they need to go fast. And I think that we probably felt that the most during COVID. Like when COVID hit, people you never thought of as critical skills were now critical skills.
Fundamental to the economy. Yeah. But you know what I think is quite fascinating about light truck and delivery services is that we never really looked at them as significant within like that, so pivotal. And I think that is the way that you need to sort of look at the job market, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not about what you're seeing now. It's about what is potentially going to be in high demand. And then you then start to ask yourself, the traditional software developer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that still applicable? The massive spaces that are growing, what gaps are being left? And we talk a lot about, and not on that list, there's a lot of things on data, digital, but is this all applicable even in Africa? Even across the African continent? Are those elements the same? Or would you suggest that there might be some slight differences that would be there? And I'm not necessarily asking for the exact jobs, but I'm curious around the process of thinking about a hot industry.
So what I would recommend anybody let me just give you the list of top declining jobs according to the World Economic Forum. We have postal service clerks, bank tellers and related clerks, data entry clerks, cashiers and ticket clerks, administrative assistant and executive secretaries, printing and related trades workers, accounting, bookkeeping and payroll clerks, material recording and stock keeping clerks, transportation attendants and graphic designers, and so on and so forth. And the reason that I am sharing that with you is because what you'll find is any job that has simple, repetitive tasks are the jobs that are going to be at risk. And whether or not you're in Africa or not, this does apply to you because we're also finding that those technologies are now becoming more affordable and more accessible. A lot of, like, for example, you can go on Gemini or Chat or all these like natural language processing modules.
Shout out to China.
Or DeepSeek for free, right? So you can actually have an administrative assistant. And if you if you use the tool as an assistant, then you actually have a way more effective, more knowledgeable, knows everything on the internet assistant that your assistant would have to research, then come back to you after like 2 or 3 days. You type in the question, the query, the concept, and it's done. So I think that yes, it is actually applicable to Africa. And if you are someone who is looking for a career in terms of gig work or remote work, if you're comfortable with remote work, and I'm an advocate so personally, we have hybrid work depending on what location you are in our organization. So sometimes you come into the office, sometimes you just work at home, and there's not necessarily a fixed schedule. You come into the office on a needs basis. So if we need to meet a client, if we need to have a team meeting, whatever the case may be, that's when you come into the office. Advocate about remote work, because I think that it also allows, assuming that the infrastructure and paying for internet is available, more people to participate in the economy, especially females who usually are like young moms who need this to be able to like, kind of be home because the cost of daycare is exorbitant. So I think that like, yes, in Africa, it can work. And if you're someone who is looking to grow in that and make money from that, there are certain not applications, but sites you can go to. WeWorks has some stuff, Upskills. There's a lot of like gig, even in Nigeria, there's a big gig or freelance is what some people call it, economy.
Yeah.
Leadership isn't just about making decisions. It's about adapting, inspiring, and leading with confidence in a fast-changing world. At Transformation Leader, we equip you with the skills to master self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and resilience. Lead high-performing teams, navigate workplace dynamics, and drive real impact in your career and business. The future belongs to those who embrace change, future-proof your leadership, and take control of your success. Start your journey today. Sign up now at t4leader.com and become the leader the future demands.
And you know what is interesting? I think, so there's that whole data space, and I think you did touch on it. In some industries, trade skills are in extremely high demand. And the reason being is that you cannot take away some of this current moment in time, some of the intricacies associated to the trade, the art of somebody who's doing a trade job. And, at times you might look down upon them, might not look at it as that lucrative or amazing. But I've seen quite a lot of people within the mining industry move from country within Zambia or city within Zambia, and they go to Australia, right? And these are heavy duty welders. You've got a shortage of electricians, plastic welders. You've got all of these different skills that actually
carpenters.
Exactly. And they require some nuances that are delicate, that require intricacies, and it's a skills, it's a trade, skilled trade. And you manufacture and do things with your hands. And sometimes you get caught up in this whole college degree versus, trade. You go, I need my papers, and but the reality is that at times you might be running fast to nowhere, but the things that are maybe less sexy, and it may be worth Justin bringing back, say, sexy back to trade, to skilled trade. But I think that.
What do you think that there is a disinterest in, like, so for example, I know the mining industry is one of those industries that is impacted quite severely, like millennials, Gen Zs, they don't want nothing to do with mining. You have all these trade skills in places where you need them, like in South Africa. That's a big economy. That's a huge skills gap. Plumbers, like just doing the basic things of building homes and construction. We don't have those skills. Why do you think that is? Like maybe from a mining context, if you have any experience in construction, like why are people not wanting to do that? Even farming, because I feel like farming is probably a good industry or agriculture, maybe not say farming, but like agriculture is probably a very good industry to like jump into.
I think that it's difficult. It's a difficult thing that you have to spend a lot of the hours, and it's not hours in the space of comfort. It's hours in the middle of wherever it is going to be. And so you end up compromising both your comfort and some leisurely experiences and exposures to then be out there and doing something that might not necessarily be as fun. But the second part, I think, as well, is that the industry sometimes don't help themselves, right? It's not marketed as very chic and sexy, but we always talk about and put a hierarchy to, you need to get a bachelor's, a master's, then by the time you go into PhD, you're now becoming like an Einstein of sorts, but an MBA, we're looking for those type of accolades as though that is what makes up the makeup of what society and how it runs. So that's my view on that. And I think the same thing applies within even a supply chain and logistics spaces, because there are elements in that require both automation, management, but there's a human touch. And anything that requires like that personal element to getting things done
Yeah.
is, I think you need people. Or do you think
Well,
that you can get away with it?
no, I agree with you. Like, you definitely do need people, but I don't want to, like, tell people, like, oh my gosh, like, just, you'll be safe. Like, you need people forever. AI is growing and it's basically displacing a bunch of people in those at-risk industries. But what we're also seeing is, and I sound like I work at the World Economic Forum. I do not. I just like reading.
Employee number 602. I saw your name badge.
I'm like,
I
what
saw
we're
your
also
name
seeing
badge.
is like, I did not do the research. It's just what I am also seeing as I read the research of smart people who have done it is, analytical
602.
thinking and creative thinking and leadership and social skills are extremely important. They're ranked in the top 10. And that's even why Transformation Leader came in, because it's just like, yeah, you can be technically savvy and you can do great work because you know how to engineer the crap out of whatever, but you suck at interacting with people around you. So actually your effectiveness in the organization is ridiculous. Like, it's not even there.
Yeah.
So I feel like, you can probably get away with people will always kind of be there, except, we are building robots and it's all like, yeah, like very soon, like we won't really need that many people
If I can afford it, I'm buying a robot. One of those Tesla robots.
Totally getting it. Like,
I'm
even if
buying
I
one.
can't afford it, I'm getting a loan to get that robot. Because the first
It'll pay itself back off.
The first robots, those are the robots that are going to protect you from the future robots who are going to,
they're gonna leave like this massive hole in the code, and then like suddenly like that thing is gonna just be.
You guys
like,
are going to come back to this episode when I'm there with my old robot saving my life against these new cooler ones. Like,
and if you're walking like a robot, like actually no, none of them will be. But then if the world is gonna have robots, if the world is shifting so much, what does this mean for you, for me, for the next person trying to get a job, right? On how to stay ahead, because am I gonna outpace if my colleague is a robot? Like, how do I outpace the?
Yeah, like you're not gonna. It's tough. If Tommy is a robot, guys. So this is the thing, right? I do think that the world is changing, and I want to maybe give people insight as to why it might be changing. This is just my assumption. I don't have like anecdotal evidence to prove this. But if you're looking at the birth rates globally, we actually don't have enough people to continue the world. And the fact of the matter, why you find people like talking about, hey, people should have kids, or they're always like, why do people not have kids? And you're just like, why is this such a big deal? Because if you don't actually have the next generation to help, grow your economy will essentially die. So what you'll find is that the solution to this is making sure that we're able to leverage technology. This is, in my opinion, like a very human thing to do, because there won't be people to fill in the AI cybersecurity jobs or the healthcare and biotech jobs or the sustainability and green tech energy, e-commerce, digital marketing. They won't be there. And even blue collar stuff that we talked about, the electricians and welders and stuff. And I think that some industries are going to struggle. Traditional media and journalism, maybe even the movie industry, retail, because now you have e-commerce pretty much taking over. Do I think that there will never be places with shops? No, because I think that people need that human experience. But when it comes to future-proofing your career, like something you can do today, right now, you want to look at learning AI, data, and digital skills. And you can do that at Digital Transformation and Data course on t4leader.com. And there are other options out there that you can actually leverage those skills. You don't always have to pay for a course. YouTube has places on there. Data Sentinels, the company that I work for, we have free content on there to teach you how to navigate AI, data, digital skills. I think Google has stuff. And the reason that's there is because there is a massive shortage of that globally.
So you're saying that people just need to put in the time and effort and not be lazy about this because things are around them and they're just not doing the most? That's what I'm reading between the line. You're not trying to be like preachery, but like you're kind of saying,
Yeah, you just have to work, So for example, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing.
yeah, what do you mean?
As in, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing something. And I think that that's kind of what you need to think about in terms of not only your life, which maybe sounds preachy, but even in your career. So when you're looking at the job market and you're going to probably start at this World Economic Futures report, but also you're kind of
Employee number 602, here we go.
I'm not even getting shares, guys. It's
I
such
don't
a
know.
good
At this point, I don't know. At this point, I'm like, yeah, look, I surrender.
I'm not getting shares.
They've infiltrated Nono.
Yeah, like I just love it. Anyway,
I'm gonna change the title of this episode to be WTF is happening with the World Economic Forum.
But you also don't want to rely on a single income stream, right? You want to have a side hustle, do the freelance gigs. I think that's a great way to play around. So like, okay, you learn some AI, you learn some data and digital skills. Let me do these side hustles and actually see what I can do with this, right? Because it's going to take time to build that credibility in the industry for people to actually go, okay, I trust this brand of either a person or company to then work with you. And if you realize from this conversation that you're in a dying industry, you need to pivot now before you're forced to. So be very proactive, be very future thinking in that case. So that is pretty much.
Because you need to rack up those hours, right? So you can't pivot and then just be like a genius.
Because I know you spoke about in one of those episodes around networking and upskilling and staying visible in your industry. I think we talked about it when we were talking about like driving your career. But like we haven't really broken down networking, and you're better at networking than I am. So I'm not even going to try and pretend to be the one. So I'm just wondering, DK, as someone who is quite skilled at networking, what advice or practical skills can you give for someone who maybe is a student, recent graduate, or unemployed or newly employed? Like, how do you actually network? Because I think that's a skill that people always say you should have, but it's like, how do you do it? Like, what am I supposed to do?
So the first thing is that.
So I'm also taking.
The first thing is that you gotta be outside. Like, ain't nothing happening in your room, ain't nothing happening in your home, ain't nothing happening in your, like, you have to be outside. Like, so you need to be very deliberate about being outside. And my recommendation is be outside, even if you don't talk. The first part of going to the gym is being in the gym, right? And so I just feel like you just have to show up, and your chances are that you might start something or you might become more and more comfortable over time. So for me, the first thing is be outside. You just cannot you cannot undermine that. But the second thing is that you have to understand some things about yourself, right? So what are you trying to achieve? Where are you trying to go? How are you trying to do this? So you have to have monologues within yourself to just gain a level of clarity about yourself. But even beyond that, there are elements of you that are authentically enough or good enough, because a lot of the time it's not about a facade, it's about making some form of connection. And so you'll typically find that people might gravitate towards your like for football or this or that you don't necessarily make up, or you haven't researched, or you haven't been hired by the World Economic Forum for. So I just think that it's you need to be comfortable in yourself. Oh, side?
Yeah, go ahead, I'm listening.
Like, it was an example that is random and just completely unrelevant, not relevant to this episode.
Okay.
So, and then the third one is almost don't be shy or afraid to talk about where you're trying to be. A lot of the time I find that people, they go into a room and then they they're pretty shy about, I want to be here, I want to do this, or this is what is in the pipeline. And the simple analogy or the simple phrase or quote for me on that one is, closed mouths don't get fed. So if you don't talk about it, then nobody gonna know about it, and therefore nobody can help you and assist.
Is that
And
the quote for this episode?
The quote for this episode is, closed mouths don't get fed. Kanye West is now a billionaire.
Another person to be inspired by.
But the thing is, right, and I'll come to that right at the end on our takeaways and our call for action.
Yeah.
Just remind me.
Okay.
But if you don't talk about what you want to do, how you want to get there, who and how somebody might be able to help, there are a lot more people in this world that are looking to help. And if you don't actually put your foot out there, I mean, you've had quite a few experiences where you're like, damn, so this person is just out here trying to help. We're having a few episodes with different people, and their breaks came from people who just were looking to help them for no reason beyond looking to push somebody forward. And these things, typically somebody will resonate with you. You can't fake it, you can't force it, you can't make it. But it's one of those things where you just have to be comfortable in your own skin. But then you can't be comfortable in your own skin in your own house. You can't be comfortable in your own skin if you don't know what you want. Right? So those are the things that I feel really make it possible, and it's about being uncomfortable in that space.
I think the only thing that I would add that's probably like easy is when you're outside, just greet people.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
Hey.
You kind of get used to not talking to different people. I've had a connection where I literally walking into the plane and I just said hi to this person. And then next thing, they're like one of my biggest, business contacts. Just from saying hello. Didn't know this person from anybody. Literally was going to just walk past the person. And I just said, let me be respectful and say hello. And so I just feel like sometimes it's not a being like you're going to a networking event. You could just be standing in line coffee and just say hi to the person right in front of you or the person behind you. Like, try and be more open. You just never know. That might be, your next friend, your next business contact. And if not, you're just being a better human being.
Yeah. And there was something that a good friend of mine told me. So he was introverted, extremely introverted. I think that he was not that introverted, but I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, so he had a mentor, and the mentor said to him, for where you're trying to get to, you need to be a bit more deliberate. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is every day when you go to the canteen or you go to these spaces that it's got a lot of people, meet 5 people that you've never met, 5 people that you don't know. Meet them. Ask them about how their day has been and what do they do when they're not at work. Those 3 questions, ask them and there's no harm. What's the worst that could happen, right? And so that became his first step towards actually getting out of his own skin and his own mind, out of his own head. How are you doing today? Awkward, very, very awkward. I mean, it was just like, for the first couple of days, he was just absolutely cringing. And after a week, it was very natural for him to say, even if he didn't have the other question. But then when he found some reciprocity, he was able to then say the next thing. And it was such a simple first step. So for those people who don't have that courage of 1,000 lions, it's as simple as a small step. And that when you said your example of getting on a plane, I just remember that example from The Big Man.
I know you're talking about it. It's okay. Let's move.
So, I want to know, Nono, what have you taken away from this conversation? Like, if you're going to give me your 2 things that you've taken away from this conversation?
Look at your current state. Are you in an at-risk economy or industry or job? And if you are, pivot now before you're forced to. The second thing is network. And your networking can be as simple as just saying hello to people and starting there to build up the muscles, the social muscles, because I think it is a muscle, right? Or a skill, to build up the skill to be able to start having conversations with people, to use your network to leverage to get you to the next job or the next space where that can be. And I'm going to give you a third thing, because this is also going to be the challenge for this episode.
Okay.
Please, guys, this week, go to the World Economic Forum or go on Google and type in future works.
Employee number 602. And
check the link below. We have also included the report. It's really cool to see. I think maybe what we might do on Data Sentinels is actually show you how to interpret some of the information, because there are some graphs in there that show you job displacement that has actually occurred by country and by industry, which I think is quite important to kind of see, okay, it means I'm at risk in my country, in this industry, in this job. Yeah,
interesting.
that's it for me.
And it also to make sure that you don't start working in a space that is decline.
Yes, I'm going to pivot right into
a hole. And so the call to action for today, I feel, is none other than be your best Trump, be your greatest Kanye. Because at the end of it all, you have to be able to rise against these challenges. And what I've heard when we've talked about all of this stuff is that closed mouths don't get fed. And Kanye West and Donald Trump, both of them, have not closed their mouths for 1 second, but more so than anything, they've been resilient within the space and against adversity. Moving times, changing tides, they've been at the center of all of that. And if you don't be deliberate on your own career, on your own growth, you could find yourself being in the space that is displaced. Or if you are proactive, you could find yourself leading the. If you like this episode, and if you think that somebody else can probably gain something, whether they might be in a rut, in a space where they could grow, or they need some clarity, they need some guidance, send this episode over to a friend who might want to or need to hear this. And ask them to also apply for jobs at the World Economic Forum, because apparently they're giving loads of those out. And then the last one is, there's that digital transformation program course that is offered by T4L. And that, in my view, are the three things that you need to do when you leave here. Be the Donald that's deep within. Apply for jobs at the World Economic Forum and Data Sentinels for digital transformation with T4L. Thank you so much for joining me today, Nono, and our wonderful guests and hosts and spectators, listeners, whatever you want to call it.
This podcast is brought to you by Transformation Leader. You can follow us at www.t4leader.com.